Okay, YouTube, continuing on with kind of the miscellaneous things still in the collection. We've covered all the major systems. We've covered PlayStations 1 through 3, PSP. So now we're kind of like the more rare things, or the things that I don't get out, don't show off all that often. So we have this little bin here, which, let's see what we got in here. This is most of the older. What do we got in here? We've got a bunch of Game Boy stuff and some miscellaneous things. So we have, let's see. This would be easier if I took everything out of the box and sorted through it that way. So what we have here is we have a handful of Game Boy and Game Boy Color games that I have all the original boxes and instructions for. Everything here should match up, but we'll just go ahead and double check. So we've got a Pokemon Blue. This is the very first game. When this was originally published, there was two versions. There was the blue version and the red version. I think I have just this one. I don't remember ever owning the red one, but I think this is kind of uncommon, especially complete, mint packaging. I mean, this is like brand new. I mean, I know how to treat things, as a collector, basically. So we'll match these up and make sure that we have one of everything. We've got Super Mario Land 2, 6 golden coins, which the cartridge is here for. We have Mercenary Force, which this is a pretty darn obscure title. This is a shooter that you have a bunch of like feudal Japan, kind of like samurai characters. You can equip different magic potions and spells and things like this. It's by Meldak. I don't even know how many games this. I never even heard of this company, but I remember picking this up, and this is, I mean, you can see the sheen on the box. I mean, this is like brand spanking new. So let's go ahead and find Mercenary Force. There it is. We've got Ultra Games is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan. Let's find the box for that, the cartridge for that. I don't see it. Maybe it's in the package, or it could be still in the bottom of the bin. We have Taito's Kicks, which is it's an arcade puzzle game. We got the cartridge for that right here, and you can see some of these actually have, I remember having a Game Genie for Game Boy, so they came with little stickers, and you would stick them on the back of the games, and it would, show through the way that the cartridges mounted into the Game Boy Game Genie. They actually flipped backwards, so the front of the label would be the label would be facing you when you put the sticker on the back. I just remember that was kind of weird and obscure. We've got Penguin Wars. This is a dodgeball game by Nextsoft. I mean, there's a lot of obscure publishers back in the day for the Game Boy stuff that I don't even know how many of these companies are even still around or how many titles they put out. But we got Penguin Wars over here. We've got Kirby Pinball Land, which is, I think, one of the very first Kirby games. I don't know if this came out before the NES Kirby game or if this is the very first one. I think this might have been the second Kirby game, and it's just a pinball game. We got the cartridge for that here. We have Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, the original release, which is... Where's the cartridge for that? Maybe it's in the box or still someplace else, but I know I have these elsewhere. And then we have the Game Boy Color release of that, which is the same game. I think it has one extra dungeon or something like that, but it's basically the same game. They just released it for the Game Boy Color, so it's kind of a reprint, but it's got some extra features. What else do we have here? We've got Super Mario Land 1. I don't see the cartridge for this either, so I think maybe a handful of these might be in a different place. Tetris 2, which I see here. Of course, we have Tetris One, which was the pack-in for the original Game Boy, which is here. As far as I know, this still works. It doesn't have batteries in it. I also have a Game Boy Color there. And then the last game we have hiding over here is Metroid 2 Return of Samus. And this is complete in the box with the cartridge over here as well. Alright, so we also have the official Game Boy cleaning kit, which I don't know how well that actually works, but sometimes, people collect these accessories and stuff too, so I, pretty much have all the original packaging saved for pretty much everything I've ever gotten as a gift or purchased or picked up or whatever. The last four things we have here are a little special. These are the 4 Final Fantasy games that were released for the Game Boy. So let's see if we can focus this a little bit. We have the Final Fantasy Legend. I think some of what I've read on the internet since these came out is that these were a different series in Japan that were not Final Fantasy games. They were published by Square, which is not Squaresoft or Square Enix. It was just Square. This, I think it's the Romancing Saga, which was a series in Japan. I think that's what these were, because I know they're not real Final Fantasy games. I know they were retranslated and renamed from another series, but we have Final Fantasy Legend, Final Fantasy Legend 2, Final Fantasy Legend 3, and then the Final Fantasy Adventure, and this game plays kind of like a Zelda game. It's top-down with, you basically run around with a sword and shield and poke at things. And then I have the cartridges for these 4, obviously. The instructions are in the packaging. So this is kind of neat. What else do we have here? I only have a handful of Game Boy Advance games, which I didn't actually own a Game Boy Advance. I have a first-gen Nintendo DS, which had the Game Boy Advance cartridge slot on the bottom. So we have... These are the Final Fantasy games for the system. We have... Let's see how I can place these here. We've got Final Fantasy 1 and 2, Dawn of Souls. We have Final Fantasy 4 Advance, Final Fantasy 5 Advance, and Final Fantasy 6 Advance. And then over here we have the only other 2 Game Boy Advance games that I have, which is Gunstar Superheroes, which is a sequel to the Sega Genesis game of the same name. And then this was a Castlevania double pack that was, I don't remember if this was, it's 2 games on 1 game pack, which is Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance and Aria of Sorrow. I do not think I have the very first Game Boy Advance Castlevania game. I can't remember the name of it, but I remember it being, I think I played through it borrowing it from a friend, but I remember it being pretty simplistic. And then over here is, this is just something I keep with all the rest of this stuff, because this is from, I think, the Nintendo DS. I believe this was a pre-order bonus for Portrait of Ruin for the Nintendo DS. So this has a special art book, which is Castlevania 20th Anniversary, and it's, it's pretty thick. And we also have a poster from Portrait of Ruin. And then this package also comes with a soundtrack CD of Castlevania Greatest Hits. And then it has a stylus. And I think this little plastic case is a pencil holder or a pen holder or something like that. I know it's something quirky in Japanese. Maybe it's even a tissue box or something, but it's still in the original packaging. I don't really want to fiddle with it. But thank you very much for watching, and we'll see what else we got dug up that we can find here. Okay, the next stack we have here is Super Nintendo stuff. I never had a Super Nintendo when it originally came out, but I did own some of the games because I had a lot of friends that had Super Nintendo. So what would happen was I would own the game, and then I would kind of keep it at my buddy's house. So some of these still have the cartridge in it, like I can feel that Star Fox does. Zelda Link to the Past does not. John Madden Football does not. Arrow the Acrobat, which this is a uncommon game that is not too great. It's kind of like a Sonic the Hedgehog ripoff. Street Fighter 2, this is empty. F-Zero feels empty. Turtles in Time has the cartridge in it. Super Street Fighter 2, this feels empty as well, so I think the chances of me getting these back from the people that borrowed them years and years ago are very, very slim to none. Actually, this might be in here. It feels a little heavy. Let's see if we can take a peek inside here. Nope, Zelda Link to the Past is always also empty. It was just heavy because it's got all the books and packaging material, so it's a shame. Maybe I'll pick up loose cart of these, maybe at a retro video game store or a flea market, and then I can, pretend that I still have the original one that I owned from all the years back. But we'll just tuck those over on the side for now. This is kind of the best of the best. This is some of my prized possessions. I have a mint in package Bionic Commando One, which a lot of people who had original NES games never saved the box, never saved the instructions. They would basically take out the gray cartridge and throw everything else out. So this is a complete version. This has the black plastic sleeve that the NES cartridge would come with, and it has the instructions in here as well. So this is one of my prized possessions, especially, one of my favorite games of all time. To have it complete in the packaging is pretty nice, and you can see the sheen on this. There's no dents. This is in pretty much pristine condition for something that's probably 25 to 30 years old. And then the other two are, I don't know if these need any explanation, but this is my pride and joy right here. This is the 2 Super Nintendo Final Fantasy games that made it to the States. This is actually Final Fantasy IV and Final Fantasy VI. They were renamed on US release because the other games that were Famicom games, the first one came out in the States as just Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy II and III in Japan never were translated. Those were NES titles. They never came out in the States. Final Fantasy IV was translated and released as Final Fantasy II. Final Fantasy V didn't come out onto the States until the PlayStation era, and then Final Fantasy VI came out on Super Nintendo. And each one of these weighs about a pound. It has the original cartridge, all the manuals, all the pack-in stuff, so it's nice to still have these. I do have a Super Nintendo someplace, but I don't even know if the batteries still work on these or if my save games are missing, but these are pretty nice. So these are in pretty good condition. These used to be worth quite a pretty penny, but Square has re-released these so many different ways that I think the market for these original ones is not really worth too much anymore. It's just basically for collectors just to say that they have it, but these are both in pretty good shape. So thanks for watching.